And released by Baton Rouge police. Boyd is accused of killing a man in the parking lot at Trader Joe's over the weekend.
I saw the impact of the bullet going into Mr. Buckley, and he reached over and clenched his abdomen area, and then he fell to the ground. And we literally stopped for a minute, but then I was like, pull up, because I don't know his mental stability right now. I don't want to just jump out of a car and run into a scene and he just opens fire on everyone in the vicinity.
We saw him with the gun, and we saw him point and shoot as we were passing that first entrance to the parking lot.
So Kaylee, you put your cart up and you're walking back to your car. Explain to me what happened once you put your cart up.
So once I put my cart up, I began walking over, and out of the corner of my eye, I can see Mr. Buckley is starting to approach me. So I just kind of like put my head down, and as I'm approaching the trunk of my vehicle, he's kind of like, you know, hey, can I get some change?
How far is he from you at that point?
He's about, he's definitely closer than that.
So maybe about...
Yeah, probably about there.
But he's moving really slow.
Yeah, he's not like, and you know, I'm walking the whole time, so he's not, that's why I never really felt threatened, because he wasn't really walking fast and I'm walking fast,
So, what then happened?
So then, as he's asking me for money, I get right up about to, I'm still kind of at the trunk of my car, and over him, I hear someone from somewhere over in the corner say, leave those girls alone.
Gotcha.
And so I'm just ready to get in my car. I don't know what's going on with the situation. I want to be in my car.
All right, so you get in your car.
So I walk up, and Mr. Buckley does follow me up to my car door, but he never attempts to get in my car or anything. So I sit in the driver's seat, set my keys down.
You close the door?
Yes,
so
close the door.
Act like you're sitting in the car.
So I was sitting here.
Door's closed.
I closed my door.
Okay, so Mr. Buckley's probably about here at this point.
So now he's turning around.
He's turning around.
He's turning around. I've closed the door.
He's away from you. He's not a threat to you.
No.
And where's your friend?
She is not even in the car yet. She still is standing near the trunk.
So he's moving slowly. He's
Right.
going away from you, and then what happens?
And then, as I set my keys down, I just hear this loud pop noise.
Gotcha.
And I'm confused. Don't know what's going on. And my roommate still wasn't in the car yet. So I'm waiting for her. She gets in the car. And as she gets in the car, she says, I really think that guy has a gun. And we were really confused because it just didn't make sense that someone would have a gun.
Never did Mr. Buckley, never did you feel threatened?
No.
And in fact, when you heard Mr. Buckley was actually walking away from you.
Yes.
Not towards your friend.
No.
Actually, possibly away, possibly back toward this alleyway here.
Yes.
I saw the impact of the bullet going into Mr. Buckley, and he reached over and clenched his abdomen area, and then he fell to the ground. At that time, I told Tony, I was like, I think that man just shot that other guy just standing in the middle of the street. And we literally stopped for a minute, but then I was like, pull up, because I don't know his mental stability right now. I don't want to just jump out of a car and run into a scene and he just opens fire on everyone in the vicinity.
At some point, you drive out, and then where would you say Mr. Buckley didn't walk in?
So he was near that line. He wasn't all the way to the grate, but he was near it.
They about here, and then he fell down.
Yes. He was already fallen down when I got to that point.
Mr. Buckley was facing the end of the road. Mr. Boyd was turned to the side, right adjacent from his car. So literally when he shot him, the reason why he got shot in the left side of his abdomen, because that's the way he was turned. He wasn't even facing him.
So he was nowhere within arm's reach of him. There was no, sign of any altercation that had taken place, physical altercation between the two of them. So he was nowhere within.
The aggression was not.
There was no aggression.
There was not an escalation of force that really warranted someone to be, shot in that manner.
Exactly.
But the reason why we knew he wasn't close to either one is because I think they had a drainage area right there. Yes. So you can kind of gauge how the actual layout of the pavement is. as far as distances from one side to the other, and he was clearly outside of that reach of anyone, any kind of physical altercation.
I truly believe that had Jace Boyd not been here, he would still be alive and he would have gone on that day and no one would have been hurt. But for some reason, I honestly believe that he thought he was going to be the hero in a story that he created in his head. And we never felt threatened. And it honestly, the worst part is that we would have never wanted that to happen, and I feel as though he was trying to use us as a reasoning for doing it.
That interaction that happened between that female and Mr. Buckley had not even had a chance to manifest itself into something greater than that. And from the time that we pulled in and made the left turn, he was already out with the gun pointed at him when he was making his way back down that
aisle.
Yeah. So it was like, from our understanding, we didn't see any aggression pulling into the parking lot. We didn't see any kind of hostile situation. Only thing we saw was him with his arm extended with the gun, the initial shot, Mr. Buckley reach over to his abdomen and then fall on the ground. And
so white male, elderly black man, 2 white females, parking lot.
I think that Jace Boyd believed that the same type of views that he has he assumed that because of the way that I look and the way that my roommate looked, that we were going to have the same views against Mr. Buckley because of the way that Mr. Buckley looks. And he took that as an opportunity to become the hero in his story. I unfortunately believe that he's the type of person that probably waited for a moment like that to happen.
There wasn't a push or concern to talk to me. From my perspective of the situation and what I gathered from how everything went, they wanted to talk to Tony more so because, and this is my opinion, is Tony's the driver. It's easier to discredit the driver because how are you driving and seeing all this at the same time? Okay, I'm the person that called 911. I'm the person rendering aid. I'm the person talking to all these public officials when it came to that day of the situation. But even though I'm the one continuously giving you my information and giving you my side and telling you how things transpired, it's almost that we don't want to talk to him because he knows too much. He has a clear line of sight with everything that went from point A to point B to Z, and no one is reaching out to me whatsoever as far as how do we close this case off.
So when you came back and you decided to talk to law enforcement, what was that interaction like?
Well, first when we drove up, the first law enforcement officer that was there, he kind of made a face, like not the nicest face, I guess. And I get out of my car, we both get out, and we walk up to him and we're trying to tell him, we think that we have information. We were there, we saw it, and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. There were other people he was asking for money. And so we're like, no, we were there, we really saw what happened. And he's like, no, it's fine. He kind of just keeps blowing us off. So I'm kind of defeated. I turn around and I start to walk back to my car. And then I turn back around and I'm like, we didn't understand what was happening at the time. We didn't know that what we were hearing was a gunshot. And at this point, another officer had come up and he said, oh, you thought it was a firecracker. And so we just felt really shut down at that point. We didn't know what to do. I kind of felt mocked and I didn't know how to address the situation anymore. So we went home.
Okay.
And after we went home, I just had a really bad feeling about it. And especially just from the interactions with the officers, I just didn't feel like they felt that it was important what we were talking about.
So you felt like they didn't feel like it was important. It's not important to take
almost
care.
As if they already had established what had happened without hearing the whole story.
Understood.
It's like they had this idea of, we know this is what happened, so we don't need to hear from anybody else because we know.
It's just the little things that they were doing that it didn't sit right with me. And then also the magnitude in which I kept trying to contact and saying that I was available. And then even it was like, well, thank you so much for reaching out. And I feel like after they got the phone, they just balled all my information up and threw it in the trash.
So is your opinion that they brushed you off?
Yes.
Is your opinion that they didn't take you serious on the day of the incident, at the place of the crime?
Yes.
Is further your opinion that on the day after, when you decided to come forth and provide this narrative, that they could have asked more probing questions to actually get the full narrative of what happened?
I mean, yes, and I told them even that, you know, I wanted them to know that it wasn't self-defense, that wasn't even in the question, and whenever I told them that was important to me, they told me that there was more to the story that, you know, I didn't see yet, kind of trying to make it like invalidate me in a sense, even though I was there and I saw what happened.
So you felt that there was no way that this white man could have been protecting your person, as if you were screaming out for help, as if you needed help, that Mr. Buckley was a threat to you? No. So it wasn't rational.
That's why it was so confusing that it happened in the first place, why we couldn't figure out what was happening, because it just didn't make sense.